I get it. The idea of securing sponsorships can feel overwhelming. You're only one person, and this isn't your full time gig. Having to ask someone to give you money, a product, or service in trade for promotion might run a close race to that same feeling of throwing your leg over a fresh colt. Visions of an unpredictable ride and possibly getting yard darted feel very real and oh so uncomfortable. Nowadays, I get giddy at the opportunity to talk shop about the art of selling and sponsorship opportunities. However, this hasn't always been the case. I've wished many times over the years that I had a roadmap for navigating sponsorships and the challenges that can arise when communication isn't clear for all parties involved. That's one of the main reasons why I felt compelled to create the Kickstart Guide to Securing and Retaining Sponsorships. In this guide, you're going to learn my exact framework and strategies for securing and retaining sponsorships. Think of this guide as a roadmap that will help you get to your next sponsorship destination. Much like our personal journeys in life, each individual sponsorship journey will vary, and the road trip will look different based on where we're trying to go. There's a lot of information out there today, and it can be overwhelming to know which direction to take. While Google Maps and Surrey might lead you astray, this sponsorship roadmap won't. The sales strategies I teach throughout this guide are like Rand McNally, proven, tried, and true. You can find the Kickstart Guide to Securing and Retaining Sponsorships at dakotadonjohnson.com.
Hey y'all, and welcome. You're listening to the Cowgirl Confessions podcast. I'm your host, Dakota Dawn Johnson, small town cowgirl with southern roots, blazing a trail as a Midwest ranch wife, mama, and businesswoman. The mission of Cowgirl Confessions is to share the wonderfully wild and western life stories of cowgirls from all walks of life. We'll talk about the highs, the lows, and everything in between when it comes to navigating careers, cowboys, kids, and cattle. Legendary cowgirl Dale Evans said it best. Cowgirl is a pioneer spirit, a special brand of American courage. The cowgirl faces life head on, lives by her own lights, and makes no excuses. Cowgirls take stands. They speak up. They defend the things they hold dear. A cowgirl might be a rancher, a barrel racer, a bull rider, or an actress, but she's just as likely to be a checker at the local Winn-Dixie, a full-time mother, a banker, an attorney, or an astronaut. If you're into wet saddle blankets, talks with God, buckets full of laughter, and the life lessons learned in the process, kick off your boots and settle in. I pray these stories encourage, empower, and give you just the leg up you need. Here's to embracing the cowgirl state of mind, no matter how wild and western life may get along the way. Friend, we're trying something for the first time on today's episode, and I'd love your feedback. So as you listen, think about what you're hearing, and if you take a moment to leave us a review, send an email, or reach out to us on social media, letting us know if you'd like to hear more episodes like this in the future or not. Your feedback and time is greatly appreciated. Today's episode is a small sample of me changing hats, and I am the podcast guest rather than the podcast host. I've had some really neat opportunities to be a podcast guest on a few different shows recently, and you already know I am all about collaboration. So today I get to share with you one of my favorite podcasts to listen to, the Cowgirls Over Coffee podcast. On episode 29, a conversation about sponsorship and sales skills is where you can get the full story, the full conversation, but I just wanted to say, I really enjoyed this conversation with Thea, the founder of Cowgirls Over Coffee. It's where we talk all things sponsorship and sales and how those two things go hand in hand. You see, while we bring unique skill sets to the table due to our unique sponsorship roles over the years, what Thea and I both have is a deep appreciation and firsthand understanding of what it truly takes to create a successful partnership and sponsorship experience. Thea has been a huge advocate of me creating my digital guide, the Kickstart Guide to Securing and Retaining Sponsorships. And I'm just so grateful for her guidance, her feedback, And we talk more about the details of that guide and how the sales skills and thought processes I share are truly applicable to any industry, and especially our Western and ag communities. Here's the thing, the experiences and the knowledge I've gained from working in and out of the arena with rodeo personnel, stock contractors, rodeo committees, corporate and small business owners, as well as with cowboys and cowgirls like yourself, it's equipped me with a unique skill set and perspective. At my core, you guys, I believe being successful at the art of selling boils down to serving people and solving problems. I've figured out how to execute those sales skills well, from securing awards for the sport of rodeo to closing deals in corporate America to now being a mom and getting my kids in the car each morning for school. Utilizing sales skills is quite literally my roadmap for success. So I'm on a mission to help equip the go-getters of our Western community, like you, with these same sales skills that will serve you well when securing and retaining sponsorships. I hope you enjoy this snippet of mine and Thea's conversation. Be sure to check out episode 29 of the Cowgirls Over Coffee podcast for the full conversation. The link is in our show notes.
So I think we should just take this to the next step. Dakota, kind of walk us through, like, if you can just hit off the top of your head, we didn't really discuss this, but like, could you just walk us through, like, what are your top best practices? Like, if someone, for sponsorship seekers, because I feel like that's the most useful conversation to have. And I'm sure that as you go through, you can speak to how this serves as a business. And if you're a business owner, especially a small business owner, you can start to kind of see how you might be able to leverage this for yourself as well. So just kind of walk us through, like, just, the highlights of best practices for this.
Yeah, absolutely. And Thea, I think what I'll do is just to kind of give some framework around this. I'm going to refer to the sponsorship guide and the framework that I have there. So my sponsorship guide, it's the Kickstart Guide to Securing and Retaining Sponsorships. And when it comes to sponsorships, that it's sales. I feel like those can be used interchangeably because you have to have sales skills if you're going to be successful in sponsorships. But really, it's broken into 5 categories. And with me being all about, embracing the cowgirl state of mind, that's something else that makes this guide a little bit different, is we definitely have, that verbiage and language throughout this guide, because I feel like if I can correlate something, a visual, back to a horse, then I'm going to retain it better. So the 5 categories that I've really broken this guide up into is section 1 is groundwork. Section 2 is, we go to the round pen. Section 3, you're going to saddle up to sell. Section 4 is where you are entered up, you're actively selling. And then section 5 is where you're headed home. And that's where we really talk about the retaining. But just to get started, I would say baseline is when you, we already covered, you need to kind of put on this hat of your goal is to serve people and solve problems. If you're going to be good at sales, and get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's not just this natural thing where you get up and go talk to somebody about what you need. And I think that that's where a lot of people get stumped, is it's like, well, I'm going to ask for something. And so I want to just encourage you. Yes, you're going to ask for something. And yes, you need to think about how you're going to say that. But what I found is really helpful for me, like when I'm getting ready to walk into big meetings, I still get butterflies over this. And I love to sell. Like, I know that's when I do some of my best work. It's when I can be in there presenting to people and making the pitch, but I still get butterflies. And so what I do in those moments is I know what I have to sell, but then I flip that thought process and I go, how is what I have today going to serve this person? And that's where I really get my confidence. In saying that, you're not going to have that confidence until you do your research. So I think this is one of the fundamental things that a lot of people kind of bypass, if you will, that you don't take the time to do the research on the front end as to whether or not this would even be a good fit. Like before you go make a pitch with somebody, you need to hop on their website. You need to figure out if y'all are, kind of fundamentally aligned, and if your service can actually provide something, value to them. And if it can't, then maybe it's not a good fit, and that's okay. But determine that before you spend your time and waste their time pitching them something they don't need. So I would say that that's kind of one of those fundamental things in the beginning, is just doing your research, and then as well as evaluating your skills. Again, Thea, some people may think, what do you mean evaluating my skills? But depending on what you're selling, let's say you're a rodeo queen and you're going in to pitch this idea to somebody, like you need them to sponsor you. Well, you may be a rodeo queen that's really great at public speaking, and maybe they don't have, you went to their website and you've realized that they don't have a lot happening on their website, and they don't have anybody, talking really about the product or anything like that. And so you could just really step in and say, hey, I think I could, really get you a lot of exposure. This is a skill set that I have. And that's something you bring to the table. Not only, hey, I can put your name on the back of my autograph sheets or on the side of my truck, but you could also step in and that kind of be another level of that sponsorship, if you will, because then you're truly going out and, and talking about them. Where on the other hand, you may have somebody that is getting up and down the road. They care nothing about being necessarily the face of a company. They don't really enjoy or thrive off of talking, but hey, guess what? They're really, really good at being in lots of places, and maybe they need a patch on their shirt. And that's one of their, you know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of different ways when you take the time to do the research and then evaluate your skills before you ever go talk to somebody, before you ever ask somebody to sponsor you or make a transaction or give you money. You need to do those two things so you know where you stand. And that can kind of help you dial down the group of people you're ever going to go pitch this idea to.
So good. Yes, I'm here for it. So that's what we're like doing, that background research. It's just like if you apply for a job, right? Same difference. Okay, so that's a good step one. Keep going. Tell me more.
Okay. I'm sorry. I just get so giddy about this. And
I know. I'm trying not to interrupt.
No, interrupt, because I built this because I wish it's what I would have had 10 years ago. And even now, the tools that I have in here, I utilize them.
When it comes to navigating careers, cowboys, kids, and cattle, it can feel lonely sometimes, like you're down in the trenches trying to do all the things. But I want to share with you that it doesn't have to feel that way. I joined the Cowgirls Over Coffee membership in May of 2020. And y'all, it has been such a gift. It has allowed me to connect with women with that Western and rural background that simply get it. They understand what I'm working with. We get to share strategies, encouragement, and hold each other accountable as we're pursuing goals in all of these different areas of life. To learn more, visit cowgirlsovercoffee.com or check out episode 45 of the Cowgirl Confessions podcast that features the founder of Cowgirls Over Coffee, Thea Larson. I hope to see you there.
So anyway, once you are able to, you do your research, you evaluate your skills, this is when it's time to then you choose that target audience. You choose the people that you are going to go out and be selective about this, because the thing is like you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay, but there are the right people. If you just invest that time on the backside, then you're going to know. And I'll tell you, this is the same thing in sales. When I'm getting ready for a presentation right now, I sell the clothing line at Ariat. This is a huge part of my job. I spend way more time preparing, hours of preparation to go in and have a 45-minute meeting with a group of people. And so all the work I do on the front side sets me up to where when I'm in front of them, I make it easy for them to say yes. That is the whole point. It's like I make it so easy, so crystal clear and concise. All they have to go and do is say, I like this, or I don't like that. Change this shirt. I don't want those jeans. Like, it's very plug and play. And I have taken that concept, and really that's my goal in teaching other people about sponsorships. You're choosing that target audience so that, number one, you're walking into a situation where they actually need your product or service, even if they don't realize it, which that's something we'll get to in a minute. They may not realize they need it, but from looking at, their website or following their business that you could help them, you could be of service to them. And so then once you have, done that, it's important that you think about, as you head into the next, let's say, portion of the sale, when you've already identified who it is, you want to get in there and talk to them. In that point, it becomes really, really important that you listen to them. Sometimes you come in geared, you have all this information. Okay. You've been doing your homework and research, but you got to remember that not all, but some, you may have a personal relationship with some of these people you walk in, but a lot of times it's new. And so as much as you feel like they know you already, you know them, they haven't been doing all this research on you. Okay. They've been living their life. They've been running their business. So you don't want to come across as overeager. It's very important. And the best way to do that is to just listen. Take a pause, introduce yourself, say what you're about, and then let them tell you about themselves. Let them ask you some questions. And that can happen whether it's via Zoom, whether it's in person. But I just really think sometimes, and I'm guilty of this, it's one of the things I've had to work on over the years, is I get so excited about knowing it's a good fit. And I've done my research and my homework that I just want to jump in there and make the pitch, and I want them to say yes. Well, the thing is they need a little time to take it in. You need time to listen, build that relationship that we talked about through this process. And then at the end of the day, it's their idea. You're leading them. You're giving them all the information they need. It's a good fit, but they have to make that decision. And so just don't get in so big of a hurry to word vomit all the things you've worked so hard to put together. That let it kind of come together in a really organic way.
I think that is such a good point because, and I think you need to frame this, like the reason you do all this research is so that you have the answer when they ask. You let them take the lead. You really are letting them take the lead. And also because you have all this information, when you get new information, which I guarantee you'll get new information if you really do. I always think about the kids, like listening ears on. When you're listening and you're not just waiting for your turn to talk, you're going to hear something and it's going to ping to them because they're going to talk to you when you ask these questions for them, especially like, here's kind of what I'm thinking. And like, what are your priorities right now with your marketing? Like what's going on? They're going to say something, and what they say to you is going to be top of mind for them, right? So the first thing that they talk to you about is what's going to be most important to them. So because you did your research, you're going to be organizing your pitch in the way that you hit what's most important to them first, right? Because so you might have made an assumption about what's most important to them and you have like a whole thing. But if you can sit back with your information and then just answer that question, and they're going to be like, dang, it's like she's reading my mind. It's not, you don't tell them, when you just wait for them to ask and then you can serve it up, it's going to be so much more impactful. And I think it's going to make getting that yes so much easier. I also think that's the gap filler between feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. And like we go in, I see a lot of sponsorship conversations begin with like, usually most people are not overly confident. Usually they're more of like, gosh, can you do me a favor? Gosh, what can I do for you? And you don't want to like give the sun and the moon away either, without getting proper compensation, especially if you don't want to be putting so much time into your partnership opportunities that you like don't have time to ride your horse and practice or something. So I just think that is such a good point to talk about like the purpose of this research phase, because I'm the same way. Like I get so excited also when you're the right fit. Like when you've done all your research and you're like, oh my gosh, I know every way because I'm so excited about this. So I think that's such a good point to make, Dakota, just the whole, like, then sit down and listen.
Thank you for spending your time with me on the Cowgirl Confessions podcast. I'm so glad y'all stopped by. If you could take a moment to share this episode and tag us on social media, I'd be happier than a cowgirl in a sea of buy one, get one vintage turquoise. Subscribe to make sure you don't miss an episode. New episodes will be released bi-monthly. Please leave us a review if you feel so led by going to iTunes. Your feedback will really help us breed the idea of grabbing life by the horns with a cowgirl state of mind into women across the globe. Some that may have never even had the privilege to throw their leg over a horse, but could most certainly use the cowgirl state of mind while navigating life. Thanks again, y'all. Until next time, keep pursuing your dreams with that all go and no woe mentality. Remember, you're writing a story that's worth saddling up for, sister.